Hello and welcome to Reddit Replies in this video. People who've been kidnapped, how did you survive? I was kidnapped in my car when I was 18. I had been stalked by the guy for at least a few days. Saw the same truck follow me a couple times on my way to college campus. I was just about to get out of my car to go to a bookstore, and this guy jumps in the passenger seat with a gun. He made me drive out of town to a remote area where his truck was parked. Never found out how he followed me to bookstore without the truck. He wanted to keep the gun on me while he got out of the car because I had a mace thing on my keychain. As he was backing out, he slipped and lost his footing, and I took off in the car. I drove straight to the police station. He was never caught. Almost. Age of 11. Do not go to second location. Fight like hell to stay in the first. Even if you get taken anyway, raising a huge noise can cause a witness to come see what's happening to you, and they can report it. I was on my way home from school for lunch and some guy in a small quarter-ton truck gets out, claims he's a police officer and tells me to get in the truck. Right away I'm thinking I'm not going anywhere with this clown. He claimed to be a cop and I asked, "Where's your badge?" While he's launching into this rant about how much trouble I'll be in if I don't do as he says in my head, I'm thinking all we have to do is bolt behind the house right next to us. That neighborhood had a whole mess of pathways that went all over the place. If we make it to that, there's no way that guy's gonna catch us. I straight up told him I'm not going anywhere with you. That caught him off guard. Like he wasn't used to someone challenging him. He got this scared look on his face and got back in his truck. Then he tries laying this bullshit on us. He's some secret undercover cop and don't tell anyone he's there. Yeah, right. My friend and I, we both ran home and told our parents first thing. They called the cops and we gave a full description of both the truck and the guy. The friend who was with me actually remembered the license plate. I got very, very lucky. The two men who kidnapped me from a bus stop, I was 16, had clearly done so with others before. They'd removed the door handles from the back seat doors, so when I tried to make my way out at a red light, I couldn't get the door open. I'm pretty sure they intended to kill me after they raped me. They drove me to an abandoned gas station and began assaulting me, but about an hour into the experience, a police car drove up to check out what was happening. The man in the back seat with me at that time threatened to slit my throat if I screamed, while his partner got out and convinced the cop that I was his niece, and that he and my dad brought me out to talk to me. He said they needed to set me straight because I'd been acting out. The cop insisted they leave the station right then, and he followed our car back to the highway. They got so worried he'd remember them if my body turned up the next day that they decided to release me right then. I got thrown down a gravel embankment along the highway and ran in the dark to a nearby open restaurant. I will never forget lying there in the wet grass after coming to rest at the bottom of the embankment, gazing up at a sky filled with stars, and realizing that, holy shit, I was somehow still alive. Injured and anguished and violated and sorrowful, but alive and able to find a way through the trauma. I was very, very lucky. I was kidnapped way before my memories formed, so this is all from my parents and the police report. Basically, a lady in the nursing ward decided to give me a spicy adoption by hiding me in some sheets and taking me out of the hospital. She was tracked down a few days later and I was handed back to my parents. She didn't mistreat me. Apparently I was a healthy, normal child, and she even bought the expensive stuff in order to take care of me. I got to meet her in my teens. I asked her, why me? And it was because my family hadn't done the paperwork for me correctly, so I was easier to slip out and potentially give her more time to disappear with me. If you got more questions, feel free to reply to the message and I'll answer them. Edit. Forgot to mention, this was in 1998. I got to meet her when I was 17 in 2015. I was kidnapped when I was 7. It was by a very drug-ridden family member who told me he was bringing me out for ice cream. He left me on a bench outside of a bar when the bartender told him he couldn't bring kids in. It was a dirty biker bar in Las Vegas during the 90s. I was young, scared, and didn't fully comprehend the situation. I was confused why didn't go to an ice cream shop. The family member came out with two men that fully fucking terrified me. One of them touched my curly, bright red hair and smiled wide. I remember not knowing what to do, so I started singing Joan Osborne's "What If God Was One of Us." They got freaked when I wouldn't stop singing and walked back in the bar. I was definitely a weird kid, but singing as self-defense was kind of smart. I was left alone on the bench again when a man walked up and asked me where my parents were. I told him I didn't get ice cream and wanted to go back to my mom, but my family member wouldn't let me. He walked in the bar but came out just a minute later and sat with me until the police arrived. 20 years later, my mom saw that family member for the first time. He was on end-of-life hospice care but made it to another family member's funeral. When everyone was filtering out, he was waiting on the bus home when my mom punched him in the face. I love my mom. I was kidnapped at gunpoint along with my younger brother and my early 20s mother when I was in kindergarten. My father, Tilda, 40 years old, hadn't taken the divorce well and already had some psychiatric illness, so he forced us all into his truck and drove us from California to Mexico. At the time, my parents told us kids that we were taking a family trip. I remember the drive, shopping in a street market, and being greeted by the flashing lights of police cars when we eventually returned to the States. The police were nice and let us sit in the police car. I remember being excited about that. The next thing I remember was coming home to dead pets. I think just 2 mice, but still. Then being upset that I had missed picture day in school when I saw the other kids receiving their photos. I'm not sure how long we were in Mexico, but maybe that'll help set the time frame. I'm not sure what would have happened if my father hadn't decided to take us back. Thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe.